Hey everyone, today we're going to dig into a question that I think everybody has had at some point. Why isn't the price for something always the same? Let's jump right in.
Okay, picture this. You're on a plane, you get comfortable in your seat, and you start making small talk with the person next to you. And somewhere in that conversation, you find out you paid like $100 more for the exact same flight. How does that even happen? It feels so unfair, right?
Well, here's the thing. It's not just bad luck, and it is definitely not random. What you just experienced is actually a very clever, very intentional business strategy at work. And this strategy has a name. It's called price discrimination. The key here, the really important part, is that the price difference has absolutely nothing to do with how much it costs to make the product. I mean, think about it. A movie ticket doesn't cost the theater any more to print for an adult than it does for a student, but students almost always pay less. That right there, that's price discrimination in a nutshell. So why do companies go through all this trouble? What's the end game? Well, the goal is to get their hands on something economists call consumer surplus. It sounds technical, but it's actually a simple idea. It's that little bit of extra money, the gap between the absolute maximum you would have paid for something and what you actually paid. Companies want to shrink that gap down to zero and pocket that extra cash for themselves.
But here's the catch. A company can't just wake up one morning and decide to do this. There are a couple of really crucial conditions that have to be in place for this strategy to even be possible. Let's call them the rules of the game.
Okay, rule number one, the company has to have market power. Basically, they need to have some control over setting their own prices. This isn't something you can do in a super competitive market. And rule number two, and this part is absolutely critical, they have to be able to split their customers into different groups and stop them from selling the product to each other. I mean, you can't have students running a side hustle, buying cheap tickets and selling them to adults in the parking lot, right? The whole system would fall apart. All right, so now that we know the rules, let's look at the different ways businesses actually play this game. We're going to start with what you might call the holy grail for any seller: first-degree price discrimination, or simply the perfect price. This is the absolute dream scenario for a seller. Imagine if they could know the exact maximum price every single person walking through the door is willing to pay, and then charge them precisely that amount. It's nicknamed the surgical scalpel because it's just that precise. The seller is able to extract every single penny of that consumer surplus we talked about. Now, in the real world, this is basically impossible. It would require mind reading, pretty much. But you do see it in certain high-stakes negotiations. Think about a high-end art dealer or a specialized consultant. They'll spend a lot of time figuring out exactly what a client's budget is and how badly they want something. And then they'll negotiate a price that gets them as close as possible to that maximum value. Since being a mind reader isn't a viable business model yet, companies have to get more creative. So let's move on to the second type, which is all about how much of something you buy. This is second-degree discrimination, but we all know it as the bulk discount. You've seen this a million times. The basic idea is simple. The more you buy, the less you pay for each individual unit. But the real genius here is that customers sort themselves out. The company doesn't need to know a thing about you. Your choice to buy in bulk tells them everything they need to know. And a fantastic, maybe even surprising example of this is your monthly electricity bill. Seriously, that first block of power you use, for the essentials like keeping the lights on and the refrigerator running, that actually costs more per unit. Your demand for it is inelastic. You're gonna buy it no matter what. But the next block of power, for stuff that's less essential, costs less. You are self-selecting into price tiers just by how much electricity you use. And that brings us to the big one, the type of price discrimination you bump into constantly, probably without even thinking about it. This is third degree, where companies cook up a different price for every group they can identify. We can call this one the group sorting hat. The company basically sorts its entire market into different buckets and slaps a unique price tag on each one. And they do it using easy-to-verify identifiers, like a student ID card, a driver's license that shows you're a senior, or even just the time of day you make a purchase. The movie theater is the absolute classic example here. You have students and seniors. Generally, they're more sensitive to price. Economists would say their demand is elastic. If the price is too high, they just won't go. So what happens? They get a discount. On the other hand, you have working adults looking for something to do on a Friday night. They're way less sensitive to price. Their demand is inelastic. They want to see the new blockbuster, and they're willing to pay for it, so they get charged the full price.
Okay, don't panic, you're not going to be quizzed on this. But this little formula is basically the secret code that makes this all work. That little epsilon symbol, the epsilon, just represents how sensitive a group is to price changes. And all you really need to take away from this is the less sensitive a group is to price, the higher the price they're going to be charged. That's it. This is the math that powers the student discount.
So, after going through all these strategies, from the surgical scalpel to the sorting hat, what are the big takeaways for you as someone who buys things every day?
Let's just boil it all down. First, price discrimination is never an accident. It's a planned strategy to capture the value you were already willing to part with. For it to even work, a company needs some control over its pricing and a way to keep its customer groups separate. And we've seen it comes in 3 main flavors: the nearly impossible perfect price, the common bulk discount, and the one you see everywhere, group-based pricing for students, seniors, and so on.
So the next time you book a plane ticket, buy a movie ticket, or even glance at your power bill, you'll know the hidden logic behind why you're paying what you're paying. It's not chaos, it's a strategy. And that leaves us with one last question to think about. Now that you know the secret, where else will you start spotting price discrimination out in the wild?